Welcome, everyone. We'll get everybody in here. Quickly getting everyone in. So good to see you guys here today for the funnel forging call. We are continuing our webinar series here this week. We are going to go over some of the workflows that we're going to specifically focus on two workflows today to automate the back end of your webinar. And we're going to do just a quick recap this at the beginning of the class, just to go over what we've already built and just to catch anybody up who hasn't been here. Okay, we'll do a quick little recap here at the beginning. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to do a quick recap. And then we will dive into today's lesson. Just before we begin, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tamara. I host the weekly funnel forging call here at Sales Process, and I also host the CRM Connect call on Thursdays. So you can find me here twice a week, and I love seeing all the new faces and new names. I love it. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to go over. I'm going to quickly do a recap of what the funnel looks like, and then just the registration automation that we built in the last class, which was the CRM class. So here is my screen. All right, so we are working on a webinar, and the goal with this webinar, we have decided, is obviously to use it as a lead magnet, to increase our leads overall as a business, and also to work towards conversion, so to work towards a sale. And the webinar that we've built is a template that Sales Process gives to you inside of your account, right? And then you just have to make it your own. So we have done that with this particular webinar funnel here. Here are the steps for our webinar funnel. We have the registration page, the thank you page, the replay page, the checkout page, and then the checkout confirmation page, okay? And what we have done so far is this is here the registration page. When you click this button, it takes you to a pop-up where people can register for your webinar. They put in their name and their email and their phone number and they register. And what we did last class was we built the automation that actually runs that registration process on the back end. So to go over that, we are going to go over here into automations, and we will take a look at that registration process. It was the opt-in webinar, and here the trigger was the form submitted. Okay, and it had our webinar form as the submission trigger. So when people fill out that form and hit submit, it will trigger this workflow. Here we added the contact tag for the webinar. The next step in our workflow is that we have updated our sales pipeline for our webinar. And then we sent them a confirmation email. And in this email, we say, congratulations, you're registered for our webinar. Here is the link to the webinar. Here's the day and time it's going to be. Block that off in your calendar. All of that kind of information is in that email. And we also had added an SMS or a text message step in there to say, congratulations, save the date. Here's the day and time, right? Now, Sales Process doesn't have technology to host a live webinar, but in conjunction with Zoom, you can host your live webinar. So all you would do is you would need to create a Zoom account and have that Zoom account. Now, I would recommend paying for it because the free version of Zoom only, I believe it allows you a 45-minute window And webinars are usually at least an hour, if not longer. So you'd probably want to get the paid version of Zoom. And then you would want to set up and grab the link, that meeting link, and put that in your email that you send out to anyone who registers for your webinar. And then what happens? You want to make sure, number one, that you're recording your webinar, because you're going to need that for your replay, right? We want to have a recording of the webinar and how it went. And we're going to actually embed that video into our webinar replay page of our funnel after the webinar. But as we go through this workflow here, what we're doing is they have registered for the webinar. We've sent them the confirmation that they're registered. Then we have a wait step for 2 days. And basically what we're doing here is we are creating sort of a nurture sequence to keep them, to keep reminding them about the webinar. That, you know, the webinar is happening, this is the day it's happening, this is why you should attend, because there's going to be a period of time where your people will register and then your webinar might be 5 days later. So there's that space in between that you want to keep reminding them about the webinar and keep their excitement about attending the webinar up. You want to keep reminding them about why they need to attend. And so that's where we have these wait steps here and a couple of extra messages that we're sending out to them. Okay. So that was the workflow that we worked on last class. And now what we're going to work on here is, I see some more people joining us. That's great. What we're going to work on is some more workflows on the back end to set up the day and the time of your workflow. And then we want to set up reminders for them to show up for the workflow. And I have mentioned this during every class, but if you would like to increase your show up rate, it is very important to get your text message marketing approval set up inside of your sales process. So you notice that in this opt-in sequence here, when people registered, I have this SMS message here. But this is only going to work if I have it connected properly and approved properly in sales process. So because this is a global company, we need to speak about this on a global level. And globally, every country has different requirements. Everybody's cell phone carriers have different regulations. And so in Canada and the US, there is an approval process that you have to go through. And you have to provide some legal business registration information. You have to show the carriers what kind of messages you're going to be sending out, and they have to approve them before you can actually start sending messages out. If you don't do the approval process, you will still have to pay for sending the message out, but it will actually be blocked by the carriers because they can tell who has approval and who doesn't. So you have to get your approval set up first, and then you can send out text message marketing. And then the people over in the UK, you have a different process to go through. And actually, it's a little bit easier than us folks over here in Canada and the US, but the UK has a process. And I'm sure that other countries have processes as well. There are even countries who do not allow businesses to send text messages. So it's important to find out what the regulations are in the location that you are at before you can utilize SMS. Now, another workaround in terms of SMS would be to use WhatsApp, because I know that WhatsApp is a very popular communication tool over in the UK, over in Asia, over on that side of the world, much more so than it is over here in Canada and the US, although WhatsApp is increasing in popularity over here as well too. So just wanted to point that out, because that's not just something that you can start sending out unless you have been it has been properly set up and you have approval to do so in your account. So that's important to remember. Now, the next workflow that we're going to work on is actually setting up the reminders that are going to go out to our people. And what I was saying was that the SMS reminders, the text message marketing reminders, can increase your show up rate for your webinar exponentially. So that's why it's a good idea to investigate whether that is a good communication tool for you for your webinar. Your show up rate is important. The more people that get to hear your webinar, the more people that hear it, the more people that see it, the more people that watch it, the more people buy, right? And so that's why it's important to get those people to that webinar. And having that text message reminder go out can really increase your show up rate. So the workflows that we're going to work on today are, we are going to work on the successful confirmation sequence, or sorry, the webinar reminder email sequence. This is the one that we're going to work on first. And this is the one that as soon as they register, we add that tag to them in that other workflow. And once that tag is added to their contact record, it's going to put them into this workflow as well. And so here is where we're going to set up our date and time for our webinar. This is called a set event action in your workflow. And we are going to say that our workflow is on December 25th, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. Okay. And so then here we would want to put here December 25th at 7 p.m. and save that. Now that we have set that date and time here in this event, what we're going to do is we are going to say one day before, so we're going to change this wait time to event appointment time. It's going to be one day before we are going to send them out a reminder email. And in this email, you're going to, talk about the webinar, when it is again, remind them the day and time again, and talk to them about what they're going to learn during that if they show up, right? Maybe even incentivize them with a free gift if they show up. Like maybe you have a free resource that you can give to them if they decide to show up. Anything to help incentivize to get them to come to watch the webinar, okay? So you want to send that information to them one day before the webinar. Then we're going to have another wait time here. And again, we're going to change this to, and it already is, so event appointment time, we're going to put this at wait 1 hour before webinar. And so here you see how it says before 1 hour. And then we're also going to skip all outbound communications. We want to put it to this because if they register 10 minutes before the webinar, we don't want to send them this 1 hour reminder, right? That doesn't make any sense if they register 15 minutes before. So if they do, it will skip this message and it'll just get them to move to the next step. So here is the message that we send to them 1 hour before. We would send them an email saying, hey, guess what? It's we've got 60 minutes until we get started. Make sure you have a quiet space, grab a drink, whatever you need to say to incentivize them to show up, right? And so that is the message that we're sending to them 1 hour before the webinar starts. And then this one is going to be 15 minutes before it starts. So we are sending this 15 minutes before the webinar starts. Okay? And again, this is another reminder here in the email. And you want to make sure that in all of your reminders, you're sending your Zoom link so that they can join your webinar, right? Send your Zoom link and all the information that they need to show up on time. Okay. Now, the only thing that I would add to this workflow here is, like I said before, I would definitely get my text message marketing or my WhatsApp marketing set up and approved so that I could use that as reminders as well. Email reminders are great, but everybody's inbox is very, very noisy. And so it's nice to be able to also remind people by adding in the step for the SMS, right? So you can send an SMS and you can, I'm just going to put in here what this is, just a test. You can send an SMS or you could send a WhatsApp message, right? So you could send a WhatsApp message here and you have to create templates for that, but then you could just grab the template, put it in here and set that up as well. Oops. There. Now I wouldn't do both of these. I'd do one or the other, right? You don't need both of them, but whichever communication tool is that your audience uses more of, right? You know them better than I do. So if you think that text message marketing would be the way to get them there quicker or to make sure they show up, put that in there. Or if it's WhatsApp, use the WhatsApp step here. And then I would put that in alongside all of the emails as well. So I would add it. I could copy this and copy it here and copy it at the 15-minute mark, right? So that when they sign up and register, everybody's going to get the same reminders. They're going to be reminded to show up to your webinar. They're always going to get the link so they know where that link is for them to join the webinar. And then this is going to increase your show up rate exponentially just because you have reminders set up. People are busy, they forget. I could sign up for a webinar this morning and forget by this evening that I signed up for it. So it's important to have these automations set up to help increase your webinar show up rate. So that is one of the really important workflows that we're going to be getting you to do for homework this evening or today. So we want to make sure that you are setting your date. So that's really what I want to see is the snapshot or the screenshot here is going to be with this action open so that I can see the date here that you've chosen for your webinar. So the date and time. Because all of these wait actions are based on this event date. So you need to set this first and then you can set all the rest of these wait times up. Does anybody have any questions about that?
If my webinar happens every Tuesday, can I do a recurring date here instead of December 25?
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, you would have to come in every week and set up the actual day and time.
Okay.
So yeah, you would have to set that up.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Does everybody understand how, oh, go ahead, John.
I usually get a message after 15 minutes after the webinar begins saying, we've started, where are you? How do they know that?
That would be great. Okay, so to build that on the end of this, you would want to put in a wait step here. Wait. And the time delay here is going to be the event appointment time. And we're going to say after, and we're going to change this to 15 minutes. So You would wait 15 minutes after the webinar starts. So this would be 15 minutes after, and you would save that. And then you could send out an email, right? So I'll just copy one from here, but this is going to be, copy this here. Now, the issue with this is that people who are doing that, they are probably using a more sophisticated webinar software, probably like Webinar Jam or Webinar Ninja, because they would only want to send that message to people who actually are not, who are registered, but are not actually physically being shown as watching the webinar. And in sales process, we don't have that capability yet. So if you set this up, it would send a message to everyone that was registered. And there really isn't a way to tag people who actually show up to your Zoom presentation, right? The software isn't that sophisticated yet. It's coming, but we're not there yet. So just know that if you do set this up, it gets sent to all registration, or like everyone who's registered. So you might be sending it to people who are already on live Zoom with you. So that's something to keep in mind. But you could still craft the message in a way that says, you know, we're 15 minutes into the presentation. Hope you're enjoying it. If you haven't joined us yet, click here, or something like that, right? So that you can still sort of be inclusive of everyone in that way.
Done.
Yeah. But that's this little wait step here. You have the choice to send after, before, or at the exact time of the webinar starting. So you can change those there. Okay. That's a great question.
Yeah, so that means I'm sure next you're going to be teaching us about how to make an automation for the people who did not attend the webinar, no?
Yes.
So there maybe I'll know saying how to find out people that did not attend, trigger the emails to them. Is that a new automation?
It's actually not going to be, we won't be able to tell who attends the webinar. We still don't have that technology like in sales process to attend, because you're using two separate softwares. You're using Zoom and sales process, right? Now, like I said, don't ever do a webinar by yourself. You do have the option on Zoom. You can like export your participant list. And so you can actually see who shows up on your Zoom, right? And then you could go ahead and tag those people. But if it gets to be like any sort of, like if there's 50 people, it's going to take you a while to tag them all and say that they actually showed up or registered, right? What we do though is on the back end of after the webinar is over, you send out the replay link to everyone who registered. And then you narrow it down to who watched the replay and how much of the replay did they watch. We can measure that piece of it.
Done.
Okay? So we're going to walk through that as well tonight. So this here is just about sending out the reminders to make sure everybody shows up. Any questions about that? Everyone feel good about the homework piece of showing this part of taking a screenshot of this so that I can see that you've got your date and time set up for your webinar. Okay. All right. So the next part of our workflow section here for our series is, let me check in this one here. No, not that one. Is the post-webinar sequence here for the follow-up. So this is when we're going to send it out to everyone who registered for the webinar, but they missed the, or they registered for the webinar, but they didn't, or they watched the replay. We're sending them the replay. That's what the purpose of this workflow is. And so there isn't, I mean, without manually adding a tag to them to say that they actually missed watching the webinar, the live portion of it, we have no way of knowing this, right? We don't know. What we want to do, though, is we want to send it to anybody who was registered. So what we'd want to do is change this to webinar. And we want to say, what do we have here? Webinar registrants. That's who we want to send it to. Because there's no way to know if they've missed the webinar or not. We don't have that technology. So it's webinar registrants. Okay. And then we would put here an event date as well. We're going to put the event date, and we're going to put the same date, specific day and time, and it's going to be the 25th at 7 p.m. There. Okay. And then we're going to put in a wait time. And we're going to wait until, so if we do it at 7 p.m., we want to send the replay out the next morning. So let's do it like, so 12 hours would be 7 a.m. So let's do 16 hours after the event. We would send out the replay link. Okay, so we're going to wait 16 hours after webinar. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to say, we're going to change this as well because this isn't, we're going to say, here's the replay. Okay, and here is where you're going to send them the link to your replay page in your funnel. So let's go over there and let's just look at that link just so everybody can get a visual of what I mean. We're going to go back out of this workflow. We're going to go to the sites. So here's some manual stuff that you have to do in between, right? So after your webinar is over, your recording renders, you have to come and get the recording and you have to load it up into the webinar replay page. Okay, so here we're going to add your recording into this element here, into this replay. Okay, so here is where we would add that in there. You would just upload your video into this space here. And then after you're done uploading that into the space, we are going to grab this webinar replay page link, this link right here from that page. We're going to grab it and we're going to go back to the automation. And that's the one that we are going to add into the email, right? We're going to say, here's the link to the replay. Okay. And so then we would create that link. And then we would just create the link and we would add that right in there. Okay. So now this email will get sent out to everybody who is a register and they would have the opportunity to watch the replay. Okay. Now, this again is a nurture sequence, right? So we want to make sure that we keep sending them invitations to watch the replay. What I recommend doing in here, though, is after you send out the first email, I'd want to put a condition in here, and I'd want to have the system check and see if after they watch the replay, did they purchase? Because I don't want to keep poking these people with email messages to watch the replay if they've already purchased, right? That just feels like I'm not doing my due diligence as a business owner. I'm not taking care of or witnessing someone's purchase, right? So here I would put in a condition. So an if else condition, I would put in here, and I would ask the question, did they purchase? And then I would ask the system, I would say, this would be the yes branch. And I would look for contact details, and I would look for the tag, right? So I would be looking for the purchase tag. So if it was purchase product, right? So I would be looking for that purchase tag. So if they purchased, then I'm going to send them down a different route than if they didn't purchase. So I'm going to click save, and then you're going to see these two branches appear. So if they purchased, I don't want them to receive any more messages. So I would move these guys. I'd move all of these actions over here. And then what would happen is if they purchased, they just fall out of this workflow, which is exactly what I want, because they don't need to receive any more reminders to watch the replay, right? And that's what these messages here are about. It's about watching the replay and how much longer the replay is up for them to watch. So you can see we've kind of got a countdown here. There's 24 hours till the replay comes down. Then maybe you have a time sensitive bonus that you're saying, watch this replay before this bonus expires. And then there's only 6 hours left, right? So there is that little bit of urgency where you want them to come and watch the replay. And so you put a time limit on how long it's up. But I would add, before every wait step, I would add this condition in here to see if they had purchased after receiving the communication. So what I would do is I would copy this, and I would just copy the action, and I would copy it right here. And each time you're going to have to move all of these over to the no column because they always go to the yes one. But you just move all those actions, and then I would copy this again. Oops, not that one. Just copy the action, and I would copy it right after the next there. And then I would move these over. Does that make sense what we just did? Because we really want to honor whether they purchased or not. We don't want to keep sending them messages to go watch a replay if they've already purchased. So I really like to put those conditions inside of the workflows to make sure that I'm not sending people and taking up room in their inbox when they've already purchased. I only want to send this message out to people who haven't purchased. And that's what this condition allows me to check for, so that I don't bug anyone. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. And so then I would carry that down, obviously, through to all of these messages here. Okay. So in this second workflow, we're going to change the name of this. This isn't missed webinar. This is send replay is what this really is. So this is after our webinar, we're sending out our replay to the people, okay? So here we want to be able to send them to the replay. We're sending them the link and they have the option on the replay page to purchase whatever it is we're selling in our webinar, okay? Now, the next workflow that we're going to build is one that we're going to build from scratch because there is not a template for it. And this one is going to be based on how much time each person watches of the replay. Okay? So we want to measure how much they watch of the replay, because the longer they watch of the replay, the more of the sales pitch they've heard, right? And so we need to speak to them differently than if it's someone who watched 0% of the replay, or if they watched 90% of the replay, right? So I'm going to show you how to measure that, okay? So we're going to create a brand new workflow, and it's going to be from scratch. There is no recipe for this one, unfortunately. And we're going to call this webinar replay watch time, okay? And here our trigger is going to be video tracking. Now, we are going to add some filters here because we have to tell the system which funnel is this that this video is in. So we have to tell them which one it's in. Where's my, here we go. Nope, that's webinar funnel. Here we go. So it's the webinar sales funnel. Then I'm going to tell them which video it is. And it's this one here. So I'm choosing the video that I have uploaded onto my replay page. And then I get to decide, this will trigger when they have watched which percentage of the video. And we're going to make 3 triggers at the top of this workflow, because we're going to trigger the video if they have watched none of it. So let's say less than 5 minutes. Okay, so this field right here is in minutes. So you're going to count it in minutes, so it'll be less than 5 minutes. So I'm going to say video tracking, and I'll put on here less than 5 minutes. Okay, so that's one trigger. Then we're going to add another trigger, and we're going to do the same one, video tracking. And again, it's the same thing. So it's in that funnel. And unfortunately, there's no way to duplicate a trigger yet. We've asked for that from the developers. They just haven't brought it to us yet. So scroll down here to webinar. There we go. And then I have to tell the system again what the video is. And then I'm going to make this percentage, let's say it's equal to equal to 20 minutes, okay? So we're going to put in here equal to 20 minutes. And we're going to save that. Okay. And then we're going to have one more trigger. And let's say our webinar is 60 minutes long. We're going to have another video tracking trigger. Okay. Tell the system again which video it is. Video duration is greater than, let's say, 30 minutes. Okay? So we're going to put here greater than 30 minutes. Okay? So now we have 3 triggers at the top, and we're going to save it. Just one sec, I'm going to shut my space heater off. I live in Canada and we have lots of snow and it's very cold in my office, but now it's getting warm in here. So let me check. I see some comments here. One second. Okay, those are just AI content or comments. Great. So once you create the triggers, you have to save them, because the next step that we're going to do is we are going to build in a condition. We're going to use the if-else condition again, and we are going to say, how long did they watch? Okay. And so this is going to be, this branch is going to be less than 5 minutes. We're going to add another branch as soon as we say the workflow trigger is less than 5 minutes. Then we're going to add a new branch and we're going to say equal to 20 minutes. And the workflow trigger is 20 minutes. And we're going to add another branch, workflow or greater than 30 minutes. And workflow trigger is greater than 30 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to save that. And what we've done here is we have created 4 different pathways. And now we can start deciding, how do we want to communicate with these people based on how long they watched our webinar video. First of all, the first thing I would think I would want to do is I'd want to give them a tag, right? So let's give them a tag. We're going to add a contact tag, and you can put in whatever you want, right? And you can put in less than, less than, there we go, 5. And you could add a new tag. So then you could add that here, webinar less than 5. Okay, whoops. There we go. Okay, save. So that would be the tag that I would add there. And then I would create a tag for equal to 20, right? Add a contact tag, webinar equal to 20. Add new tag. Okay. And then I would add another tag here, webinar greater than 30. Oops. I have to save it first. Webinar greater than 30. Okay. All right. Then I can decide how I'm going to speak to these people. If they've watched less than 5 minutes of my replay, I almost want to invite them to come back, right? Come back and watch the replay. Like if they bounced because they didn't get to hear all of the information. So I think I would send them a message about coming back to watch the replay, right? You didn't finish the replay. And so I would send them a link for the replay and invite them to come back, right? Incentivize them. Talk about, the fact that the replay is only up for the next 48 hours, that there's a bonus if they watch the replay. Incentivize them to actually watch your presentation, right? And so you're going to talk to them very differently than you're going to talk to somebody who's watched more than 30 minutes of your replay. In this case, you can send them an email. But before I sent them an email, I think I would also want to check and make sure, did they purchase, right? So I wouldn't want to send them to the replay unless they purchased. So again, I would stick in this condition here, if else, and I would check for that purchase tag. Did they purchase? Yes or no? And you're going to just look for, again, that tag that tells you that they purchased. Okay, and then the other one is no, right? If they didn't purchase, then you're going to want to move this over here. If they purchased, you don't need to send them anything, right? They've purchased, your webinar did what it was supposed to do. If they didn't, that's when you're going to want to say, hey, come back, watch the replay, right? And here again, this is, once you build this once, you can copy this to your other branches as well. And so this starts to look a little bit complicated, but once it's built once and you test it and make sure that it works properly, you're good to go. This is something that you can duplicate over and over again, right? So we're going to copy this, and we're going to copy all actions, and we're going to copy it here. And we're going to copy it again. Copy it here. Okay? Because before we send them any kind of communication, maybe they watched 20 minutes of the webinar and thought, yeah, sign me up. I don't need to see anymore. And they just went and purchased it. What we don't want to do is give them that icky feeling of they purchased, and then we are inviting them to come and watch the replay again, right? So that's why we're putting these extra steps in here. Is this sort of starting to make your brain scramble looking at this? John, I feel like I see you holding your head. Okay, let's slow down a minute and let's talk about it, okay? Because this can get a little bit crazy here. But really what we're doing is we're just creating communication pathways for them. And we're deciding on how we want to speak to them based on how much of our content have they consumed. Like I said, we're going to speak to the people who watch less than 5 minutes very differently than we are if than we speak to someone who's watched more than 30 minutes of the webinar. And of course, you can decide what your triggers are. You can set up, what do these triggers need to be? What are important points in your presentation that, are good benchmarks to see what kind of buying mind they are in, right? And whenever we create a condition, I always like to change it into a question to make it easier, right? So we're asking here, how long did they watch? Did they watch less than 5 minutes? Did they watch 20 minutes? Did they watch more than 30 minutes? Okay, so if they fall in between here, they're going to go down the 20-minute path, right? If they fall in between here, they're going to go down the 20-minute path. They have to get greater than 30 minutes to go down this path. And then what we're asking before we send any communication to them is, have they purchased? Then we will send out an email to them if they haven't. If they haven't purchased, then we're sending them an email saying, hey, come back. Take a look at this again. We don't want you to miss this opportunity. How does that feel to everybody? Does it feel really convoluted or does it feel clear?
The first trigger step and the if else step, how long did they watch step, are they both not the same? Like, can't we just like say watched webinar? How long did they watch? Less than 5 minutes to can we do that? Trigger is just watched.
Yeah, the trigger is just the trigger is only going to show, it's only going to fire if they watch less than 5 minutes, right? So that if they drop off of the screen and stop watching at less than 5 minutes, that's going to trigger their contact record to go through this workflow. But it doesn't mean, what we could do is we could put a step right here. You could put we could put inside of our purchase workflow, we could have remove from webinar replay watch time workflow. And that would pull them out. And then you wouldn't have to put these conditions in because they would be pulled out of the workflow if they purchase. So that's another way to make sure you're not sending them email. Does that make sense, John?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that would be another way, and then you wouldn't have to build all these branches, right? You could put it inside of the purchase workflow to pull them out of the webinar replay watch time workflow. And then you wouldn't have to check and see if they purchased. And that would be a much simpler way than doing it this way. Doing it this way. You'd still need to do it this way with checking how long they watched, but you want to be able to tag them, right? You want to be able to say, how long did they watch? And if they purchase, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter how long they watch. We don't need to tag them for that purpose. But we just want to know the people who haven't purchased, how long did they watch? So how does everybody feel about setting up this first part of this workflow with this condition? How does everybody feel about that? I guess what I really want to do is introduce this video tracking action to you so that you know that it's there and that you can use it to your advantage to sort of plug the leaks inside of your webinar funnel so that you can bring those people back to make sure that they have the opportunity to finish that replay, and you can speak to them based on how far they got. So for this piece of the homework, just show me that you have decided 3 different time periods for your video watching. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, or it can be the same, doesn't matter. And then you're able to set up the if-else condition here so that you don't have to build any of this piece out, just show me the branches. So show the 3 triggers at the top, and then show me the 3 different branches of communication. There will be 4 because there always is, because you always have one that if they don't qualify for anything, they just fall out of the workflow. So that's this one here, but it's these 3 that I'm looking for the homework. How does everybody feel about that? Does that feel like really crazy?
I've taken a screenshot of this. Let me see.
Okay. And remember, the action here is video tracking. And we just have to tell the system which funnel it's in, which video it is. So you have to have your video uploaded into the video element to be able to choose it. Just remember that. And then you tell the system how long do you want it to measure for. Okay? And then here, we're just asking the system which workflow trigger fired. That's what we're saying here. We're saying which workflow triggered. Now, I do want to point out to you that you have to create the triggers and then save them first. They'll not be able to choose them in the condition. So if you try to build it with triggers and then you try to build the condition, it won't show you what the triggers are. You have to save the triggers first and then build the condition. It's just a weird thing with the system. So just put that save step in as soon as you finish building out your triggers. Any questions? This is definitely a more complicated workflow. But I know you guys, you're so smart. Like I see what you guys build in the Facebook group. I see what you're up to in there. I know you guys can do this. So I'll go over the homework today is I want to see this workflow and I want to see the 3 triggers and then this condition with the 3 branches. You don't have to build the rest of this out. You don't have to do that. Just these 3 branches here. Okay. Just to show me that you have an understanding of using that video tracking action and then how you can build those 3 communication lines from there. Okay. So we have this screenshot here for this workflow. And then we have the other workflow for, which one did we have here? The reminders, right? And that was with this date open. So I can see that you've set your date for your webinar. So those 2 screenshots. So this one's going to be a little bit more work, but I know you guys can do it. No worries. And you have access to the replay and you can just rewind it and pause it as you need. Okay. All right. So with that said, we will go over. Let me move a few things around here. All right. I believe it is this one. Okay. So this is for the contest. We're going to go over what the contest is that everybody is participating in. So it is the monthly hashtag sales process wins contest. And today we're going to be building out the reminders workflow and the video watch time. Okay. Oops. And I'm going to move this down so we can see what we're doing. There we go. So we just need those 2 screenshots for that. And you have 48 hours so that you can create those workflows in your own sales process accounts. Take your screenshots, post them in the Facebook group, and use the hashtag sales process wins so we can keep track of your entry. You have the opportunity to win 3 prizes. First prize is an exclusive hot seat coaching session with Peng Jun. This is a private session with you and Peng Jun, and he will take a look at your offer. He will take a look at your sales funnel. He'll take a look at your traffic strategy. He'll take a look at the whole thing, and he will tell you what he would do to make this an amazing offer that's going to make money. Okay? And then you will also receive a ticket to the Internet Mastery Retreat Live, which is happening in 2025 and is going to be an amazing event. So that's first prize. Second prize is a one-on-one traffic and ads strategy session with Marcus. Marcus is the brains behind Peng Jun's ads. He runs all of Peng Jun's ads, And he will sit down with you and talk to you about your traffic and ads strategy. He'll look at your ad performance and your targeting. He will talk to you about advanced traffic strategies that he would recommend. He'll talk to you about split testing techniques to actually wring out every single dollar that you are spending on ads to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. And you also get a ticket to the Internet Mastery Retreat live. And then third place is the ticket to the Internet Mastery Retreat. This is happening in Q1 of 2025. I haven't heard about the location yet. Have you guys heard? I haven't heard where it's happening yet, but it is happening. So then third prize is a ticket to get inside the retreat. So in the next 48 hours, you need to post your homework in the sales process Facebook group with the screenshots that I mentioned today, and also put in there your hashtag sales process wins. And just let me know, what was the biggest aha you had from today's lesson? Was it how hard it was to build this one, or was it how once this is built, it's going to be an amazing machine? Like, what was your aha? And so you need to have your entry done and in the Facebook group in the next 48 hours for it to be valid. And here are the ways that you can get 5 days a week. We have homework that is assigned at each of the office hour calls, Mondays through Fridays. And you can find me here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are the classes that I teach. And that is where you will get your homework assignment, and that's when you can post them in the Facebook group. And don't forget to tag them with hashtag sales process wins. Does anybody have any questions? No questions? John, I sent you an email. Did you get it?
About the screenshot,
Yes.
I replied back to you a little late last week.
I sent you another email today. It was a couple hours ago, but yes.
It's
So,
early in the morning. I'll check quickly.
okay. So we were able to find a DNS record that's not quite right. And so you just have to change it.
Right, okay. Done, awesome. I'll check this.
Okay, that's awesome. And just let me know if that doesn't fix it still. But there is a record that needs to be updated.
Done. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, guys. That was a quick class. Oof, I can't believe how fast that went by. We did some great stuff there. All right. You guys have an amazing rest of your week. I'll see you on Thursday. I'm back. And we will continue with the webinar workflows. There's even more to learn. So we're going to keep building with those. So good luck in the contest, guys. Get those entries into the Facebook group, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.